Excellent. Well, just want to say welcome to everyone. I'm delighted to have you here. I think we'll have people probably slip in and out as their schedules allow it for the day. I just wanted to create sort of this open space for people to ask questions and figure out how we're going to navigate NetSquared as we go from this community of live in-person events to something that's obviously a bit more virtual and online. I'd love to hear from you how things are going, and then we can talk a little bit about some of our ideas and approaches for how we may be able to take some of the spirit of our local events and bring that into an online space. So yeah, if you want, feel free to unmute yourself. If there's a little bit of background noise, I may remute you, but otherwise, delighted to have you here. First, I just want to hear, like, how are things going? Like, what is the current status of your community? I know Catherine's been quite busy of late. Catherine, do you want to give us a quick sense, like, how are things going for your local NetSquared group right now? Maybe I don't quite have Catherine audio quite yet, which is fine. Who would like to go first? Edna, would you like to share a little bit?
Okay, if nobody's going, I can go. This is Blessing.
Hey, Blessing, go for it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Our community is kind of quiet. People are still going through the shock of what is going on.
Hmm.
And for us as an organization, we also do like a food distribution, and we have run out of everything we have collected through our food drive throughout last year that we had in stock. We have run out of the inventory. So right now, we are just trying to see all the COVID-19 funding coming up. We're trying to know how to put on a proposal so we can get more food to serve the community because everybody's still in shock. Both the kids, both the parents, you're still trying to get a grip of how to handle the situation. And as an organization who serves the community through food bank, it's very difficult for us when somebody calls for food. We say, oh, we don't have food. And the schools are really doing very much, but the schools are only serving like snack, the school snack, the serve kits during the school hours. That's what the school is giving, which is very, very helpful. But when it comes to dinner and meat, like now, some of the employees in the meat factories are falling sick. So those factories are kind of shut down. So in my area, we will soon run out of meat. We have already run out of essentials like 2 weeks ago. So
Hmm.
apart from that, things are not too easy for us down here. As soon as you go out, you have to go back to the house because you don't know where this thing is growing. In the Maryland, DC, Virginia area, it's kind of gradually coming up. The number of people affected are coming up, and the number of people, a number of deaths is also on the rise. So everybody's become more careful not to go out at all unless you really need to. So, but we are now focusing our attention on raising more funds to serve our community and also try to think of not having other services fall behind because we're focusing on one. We're also trying to focus and try getting our meetings up and running online as in face-to-face meeting. So it's kind of a
Right,
challenge, but we believe we'll get through it.
right. So your first priority as a group that also has a
Mm,
direct social service provision is obviously to focus on that first, and some of the skill building, technology skills, the how to work remotely work comes later. Like that's going to follow, as first priorities are dealt with.
Um, for now, yes, but we are also looking out for funding to get equipment so we can update like our digital transformation. We can update to more recent and technology and move our infrastructure to Windows 10. Like now, Windows 7 is already phased out and we're still running on
Hmm.
Windows 7. So as soon as we finalize our digital transformation, which is moving to Windows 10, we can start running our programs. But for me, I don't want any of my programs to fall behind. So I still want to either first week of May try and host an online community.
Right. Okay. That's
Yeah.
a good goal to work
Mm.
towards that first week of May. And I
Yes.
think, with these online events, what I find is giving people less advanced notice is okay. So I think if you start promoting even just 1 week away from the beginning of the event, that can work because people aren't necessarily doing a lot of long-term planning at this point in their lives.
Yes. Yes. So
Edna, I see you just raised your hand. I'll if you want to come off mute and give us a sense of where you're at right now. Go ahead, Edna. All right, Edna, when you get a chance, feel free to share, or of course you can put your question here in the chat window as well, and I can share it with others. Anyone else want to just share where their local community is at right now? I'm getting an update here from Edna in the chat who says, with the lockdown, there are no known meetings taking place right now. And yeah, and actually I've been going through all of the upcoming meetups and just looking for the groups that haven't yet had a chance to schedule or cancel their events. And if I don't hear back from the organizers, I've been going through to cancel those events. And I'll show you in the screen share what this is currently looking like right now. So right now, Edna's been keeping her group in Uganda alive using phone calls. And I think phone calls and WhatsApp are a great approach right now. The other thing, of course, is we've got the Zoom room, which is available to you. In fact, I just started one up for the group in Athens, Greece, half an hour ago. So know that that's a resource available to you as well. And from Alicia in Wisconsin, she says it's all very shut down, but there are virtual events and tours happening, but nothing tech related at the moment, which means there's potentially this opportunity to host something. And one of the things I've seen around these virtual events so far is that there is lots of people joining from even outside our own community because I've been promoting these online events across, these 70,000 members across the entire meetup. So that is one way we're able to sort of drive people to your events, especially as they're virtual. So for some groups, they're actually finding they have more attendance than they normally have for their monthly events, which I think is interesting, but I guess not too shocking and surprising. So let me just turn on my screen share and I'll show you what the events are currently looking like. So I'll just pop in, I'll start sharing my desktop. And so what we're looking at here is the view I've got, which is a view of all the upcoming events across the network. And you can find this by going to Meetup and searching for basically NetSquared within any distance. And so what I've been doing, just to make it very clear and consistent to potential attendees, is starting each one of the event titles with online in square brackets. It really sticks out and it becomes very clear to people that this is an online event. And so you'll see there's still lots of meetings going on. Today, we've got this meeting, then we'll have a couple others going on. So this is the one that just started in Greece. This one's in Houston. Then we'll have one in Guatemala later on today. And then we're gonna have one in Peterborough, Ontario in Canada, and then a second one in Canada and then one in Toronto, and then one in North Carolina. So you'll see there's a lot of NetSquared activity going on right now, and that's just today. So you'll see there's been this real uptake, and most of the groups have been leveraging the online resources. So if you go into the NetSquared guide, our Zendesk, and if you basically look for like Zoom or virtual, there you go, Zoom account for virtual events, the article shows up. And this gives you a bit of a guide on how to host these online events, including how you should name them, and then how you should book the Zoom room. And so what happens is, you'll see there's a calendar here because we can only use this Zoom room one group at a time, so we just need to book so we're not on top of each other. And the way we do that is you can use this booking form. So you just click this link, and from there, you can then basically say like, oh, my meeting is going to be on the 21st. I see there's an open time at 6:30, and then you just drop the meeting time in. Again, remember, you can always update this, and it should update automatically to your local time zone. So say you're in Uganda, then you'll need to just find something that's in your Uganda time, or maybe you're in like, in another city. So you just update your time zone here. Like, so Mexico time, and then you select the time of your meeting. And once you book this, it will automatically show up on the calendar on this page here. So it becomes an automatic process, and it will also email you the link that we use for the virtual meetings. So that's the process for booking one of these online meetings. See, there's a question chat window. I'll just drop into there. There's one here from Maru Publishing. They just talk about the situation in Rwanda, which is like these in-person meetings aren't allowed right now. And then there's some comments here about the Zoom security. And so I think for many people, what they found is they can have unexpected visitors showing up into their Zoom room. And the way we set this up, because this Zoom room will sometimes be used when I'm not awake, it does have low security within the Zoom room link we've been sharing. However, if you schedule that meeting in a time where I'll be awake, what I'm doing is I show up at the very beginning of like first 5 minutes of your meeting, and I make you the administrator and the moderator of the group, of that Zoom meeting for like the next hour. And so that allows you then to like, mute or kick out any members to prevent any security concerns that might arise. So that's the approach we're taking right now. But what we found so far is because most of our meetings are under 25 people, we haven't had any real concerns around that. But but that is sort of the solution we've got in place, just in case there are any unexpected visitors from a security standpoint. We've got a couple other people who've come in. We've got both Maru Publishing and also Mohammed Bashir. If either of you would like to come off mute and just like give a quick update on what is the status of your NetSquared community right now, I'd love to hear from you.
Hi, this is Mohammed Bashir. And Aleph, Eli, thank you so much for organizing and adapting new online events. That takes a lot of leadership, which you have, so you proved it already. I really appreciate that. And I follow these steps and schedule the online event in the meetup, and I have 3 attendees so far. Yeah, it's a little bit slow, my community. So yeah, hopefully I will. You have schedule another meetup next month, online meetup, and I'll follow the steps. And we have 300 members. So I'll message them, and hopefully I get few people on board to help to spread the word over the social media, and hopefully we get going better than we have been doing in the past.
Thank you, Mohammed. Yeah, and you'll see that there is, some groups are bringing in larger online group numbers of attendees because the groups have been meeting for several years and they've got a large mailing list. For some groups that are a little bit newer or less established, they may find they have less or fewer online attendees, but I would recommend that you still continue, because one of the things that is the advantage of this online Zoom virtual meetings is we'll be recording automatically videos from all of these events. And I've been taking those videos and posting those to the NetSquared blog, and I'll drop that link into the chat. Videos. And so that gives us an opportunity to share the knowledge from these events outside of just the moment of the live event. So that's one of the advantages of this approach. So we've had some people do quite great presentations for, groups of like 3 to 4 people, but then they actually get, many views afterwards, and you can of course share that link with your 300 members of your meetup. So that's another way to sort of build that relationship with those members.
Thank you. I'll do that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, such a pleasure. And yeah, and I was really delighted that TechSoup was able to move quickly to open up this Zoom room and give us this way to adapt our community to these online virtual places. So yeah, so thank you for your support there, and thank you for experimenting as we see what the appetite is of our local groups for this. I have a comment here from Desiree, who was just saying like, hey, what was the question again? So for the later arrivals, the question really was, I'd love to hear from you just about, who you are, your city, and then tell us what is the current status of the community, that your NetSquared community, which is to say, like, are you hosting events right now? Are you hosting online events? Are there like online chats or Twitter or WhatsApp groups? Like, is there a way that you're keeping the community active right now, or are you letting them sit for the moment? And Desiree, you're on mute, so if you want to, take yourself off mute, you're welcome to share, or you can share here in the chat window, and I'll bring it out to the rest of the group leaders. We have a new person coming in. We've got Abdul Hadi, who's just arrived. If you want to take yourself off mute and give a quick introduction about your city, and then, what is the current status of your NetSquared community, I'd love to hear from you.
Hello, good day. I don't know if it's evening or morning on your side, but it's evening with me.
We don't see you, but we do hear you, so go ahead.
Okay, my name is Abdul Haji Abdulrazak. NetSquared coordinator from Kaduna. And Kaduna North, to be precise. We've had a series of lags due to these corona issues. We actually set up a meeting to be 31st March, but I don't know if it's going to hold. So that's the status for now. But our last meeting was on 27th of last month.
Right. Yeah, I suspect an event in this month, and the recommendation from Meetup right now is that we try and take all of our events, at least for the next 2 weeks, into an online format. So
Right.
if you need some assistance with that, let me know, and I'm happy to help you go through that process of setting up the Zoom room.
All right. Thank you.
But yeah, really great to hear from you. So one thing that I think people have been asking me, and then let me just turn on the screen share, is people are saying like, well, what kind of events can we have? Because I think one thing that we've learned is right now there's more webinars being posted than there ever have been. And so my feeling is that we don't necessarily need to compete with hosting yet another very formal presentation slide-based webinar because there are so many great ones out there right now coming from TechSoup and many other organizations.
All right.
But I think what is really unique for us as a community is that we have these relationships that we've already built by coming together in person. And therefore, my recommendation for your event is to keep it quite informal. To do it a little bit like this, where it's a guided conversation, where we get to go through a couple of questions together. And because I never come up with any good ideas myself, I always, take them and adapt them from the rest of the global NetSquared community. I've been waiting to see what emerges from the other leaders. And the idea that I have got most excited about so far, that feels like it's really like a flag that we can like wave and all rally and come towards, is this idea of like this theme that community isn't canceled. And so NetSquared Brisbane in Australia came up with this idea of community isn't canceled, and they're calling it a community check-in. And for them, it's a virtual breakfast. Other people may do it during lunchtime, but it's just a chance for the people to come together.
Okay.
And so that's been sort of like both the graphic that was sort of used and bit of the theme. And so the way Bruce put it together is, he basically said, let's have a community check-in. And then he put in like 3 or 4 bullet points, which is just the questions people can ask in the meeting. And I thought that was really a great idea. And actually, so did other group leaders. So you'll see a couple days later, this whole event idea was basically taken and copied by the North Carolina USA group, NC Tech for Good. So they took this same idea of community isn't canceled, but then they put a bit of a theme on it. So for that group, the conversation is going to be tips and hacks for working from home, which of course is a thing that so many of us and nonprofits are learning and adapting. And so you'll see that this is what they did right here. So they're calling it a community share-a-thon, and it's just going to be a place for people to share ideas and tools and approaches they're using for successfully working from home. And there's lots of great blog posts, and I'll be putting together one of the event templates that I've been doing, and I'll put that by the end of this week, into the events templates section of the NetSquared guidebook. And so you'll have some sample blog posts and some sample questions that can help you think around what are some of the ways that people can work effectively online. But I think this idea of the theme of community isn't canceled is a great idea. And to make it really easy for you to post, I've actually added it as a theme directly into Meetup. So when you go into Meetup and you create an event, and you'll see I'm just clicking here, create new event, there is this thing you can do. One, you can obviously copy a previous event, but you'll see there's an option here to start from a template. So if you click in there, it then just gives you a couple different pre-written event descriptions. And so you can just go in here, say, select the online community isn't canceled event, and it automatically fills in the title and the description and even the link for the virtual Zoom meeting. So you'll still want to go in and add a couple details and tweak it, but once you've set your time, then all you need to do is go and click the announce button, and you're off to the races. So that's one way you can very quickly get one of these community isn't canceled event going in your own city. So I'm going to turn the screen share off and come back to the chat. I see there's been a new question. And so one of these comments is that many of the meetup attendees were there representing organizations, and actually their computers are trapped in their offices. So it's actually difficult for people to attend these meetings as an organizer. And I totally understand that. Luckily, and this isn't the perfect solution, there's actually quite a good application for Zoom on people's telephones. So they can actually attend directly from a Android or Apple phone using the free application from Zoom. So that might help bring people into attendance, even if they don't have direct access to their computers. So that can help them. Now, obviously, if you don't have a way to message them because you don't have their personal email address and only their work email address, that could still be a problem. But if you have access to another way to reach those people, and I know some group leaders have Facebook groups or WhatsApp groups as well, that is one way that you can invite people into this Zoom meeting and then remind them that they can actually participate directly on their phone. So here's a question from Edna, and it's just a question around, does it consume a lot of data? And I think the answer is yes. As a video chat, it is going to consume a lot of data. So if people are trying to participate in a Zoom using their data plan as opposed to being on a wireless, like a Wi-Fi network, I think there is a danger that it can consume a lot of data. And for those people who have that concern, I would recommend that those people turn off the video and only use the audio, which will make things much simpler and reduce the impact. But I think Edna's right to be very aware of your audience and is it going to consume the network? Now, we're using Zoom here, so if this experience works for you, then I think we can use a pretty similar experience for all of your other potential attendees as well within the network. And then here's a comment here from Blessing around the template. And the answer is definitely. Feel free to use all of those templates, or what I sometimes call them as recipes, for your own meetings. And you can completely adapt it to your own words and formats. So you don't need to be stuck on how I wrote or suggested the event flow. That's only a suggestion. But I think you should feel free to adapt it and change it for your own local uses. So I think that was what I wanted to share today, which is just to talk about both how we can book the online meetings, and then also this idea of creating these conversational community isn't canceled meetings where we can come together and just have more of a discussion where people can talk about the solutions they're finding during this time, the challenges they're facing, and we can share best practices with each other. Does anyone else have any questions? You can either take yourself off mute, or we can move ourselves into the, or you can put that question into the chat window, and I'd be happy to speak and share your question with others.
Yeah, this Abdul Hadi. I have a question.
Go for it.
Okay. About the, do you have an organogram for TechSoup in our country to see where the leadership board and how we could know our positions in the in our states?
I don't think we have something that is country specific in that way of just of saying like, what are the, are you asking sort of what are the needs of nonprofits in your country? Is that the question?
The organogram, the position, yeah, something like our position in the organization.
So I don't have that centrally, but here's a useful tool. Because NetSquared is, or NetSquared is a program of TechSoup, and our parent organization is fully global, and therefore sometimes a little bit complex to figure out who the local partners are, who is the right, like the right person to contact. So you can always send me an email and I'm happy to connect you to the local TechSoup partner. But let me give you a tip on how to find that TechSoup partner. So I'm going to do the share screen again and show you how I always try and find my local TechSoup partner because I can't keep it all in my head either, because of course, you know, with so many countries, it's just too much. So the suggestion I have is go to TechSoup.global. And that's the central place for you to find any TechSoup in the globe. So you go into the choose your country and choose any country. So say I want to look at Algeria. So I go to Algeria, click, and go, because I have no idea who our TechSoup partner is there. Oh, and I'm in a country where it's in Arabic, so actually I can't read it too well, but you know, but it also shows the power of TechSoup, and you can see like the Zoom is available there. So actually, nonprofits get access globally to a 50% discount for the Zoom video conferencing service. They'll also get access to all kinds of services from Microsoft. And so what you'll see here is, okay, this is actually not helpful. Let me get another country just that I can actually read. Let's look at, name a country, throw a country name at me. I'm gonna do Egypt. Let's see what's in Egypt. Same thing, Arabic again. The country I just don't know well. Let's say
Ghana.
Ghana, let's do Ghana, perfect. So let's go to Ghana, thank you, .TechSoup.global. So basically you can find your local country through this service. And so here's Ghana. And what you'll see here at the very top is there's always a link right here to the local partner who represents TechSoup in that country or territory.
Okay.
So you'll see in the case of Ghana, it's WACSI, who is the West Africa Civil Society Organization. So you can click in here and it will take you directly to their website. And I actually know some of the people at WACSI, so there are people I can introduce you to and make sure that you have a chance to talk with them. You'll also see that when I share your events on Twitter, I'll almost always tag the local TechSoup partner. So when I promote events in Ghana, I'll make sure that I also tag WACSI so they know about the work that you're doing as well. And so that's how you can find your local partner. So there it is. You can go and say like, I'd like to go visit WACSI, and you can open up their page. And so I don't have their full org chart because the way TechSoup works is each one of these local partners is a separate legal organization. Because TechSoup decided a long time ago, very wisely, that we couldn't hire staff in every community. We just don't have the relationships there. It didn't make sense. But it makes much more sense for us to work with an organization that already exists and has powerful local relationships. And then we just get to go there and leverage those relationships, and they get to deliver TechSoup within that country or region. And so WACSI is actually covering much of West Africa, including Ghana and Nigeria, and a couple other countries, but I think not Cameroon because it's a francophone country. So I think it's supported actually by one of our French-speaking partners in the region. So that's how you'd find your local partner. And sometimes you'll look at a country and there won't be anyone listed there, and you'll see like, let's look at Jordan. So you'll see sometimes these countries here and there's nothing here. And what that means is this is actually managed by TechSoup Global. So there's actually we have an Arabic speaker in the San Francisco office who's supporting many of these Arabic speaking countries. And so you'll see that it's just part of the TechSoup Global network, and therefore there isn't a local partner, but actually it is managed remotely. So that's what you're seeing right there. So hopefully that helps for you just to get a sense of who is TechSoup's partner in that country. And if you ever need an introduction or want to know more about that partner, just send me an email. I'm happy to help you out there. So I've got a question here from Desiree, and he's saying, for nonprofit leaders who attend our events and want to take advantage of TechSoup offerings in their country, how do they go about it? So I'm happy to take you through that. Let me just turn on the screen share one more time and I'll take you through that process. So let's pretend we're in Ghana again. I think that was a good example. So you go into that Ghana website, and this should be pretty standardized across each country. So you find your local country, and then from there, all you need to do is really click the button up here, which is Join Now to request donations. And you're going to create an account which is completely free. So there's no charge at all for this process. And what happens in this process is this is where TechSoup confirms your eligibility. And we do this just once, but by doing it this one time, you can then use that eligibility across any of the 30 global donor partners, whether that's Microsoft or Google or Adobe or Cisco or Zoom. And so you basically, once you spend like these 2 weeks to get approved, then your next approvals are all pretty much instantaneous. So that would be the process. So you go in here, you create your account, and then you go in here, so the next page is where it gets a little bit more complex, because what you'll need to do is have a copy of like the PDF of the government registration your nonprofit or charity received. And sometimes you may be part of an organization that is thought of as a nonprofit locally, but doesn't necessarily meet the criteria. So under the help section, you'll see there's this very important section called eligibility criteria, and it's different in every single country. And so you'll need to review this to make sure that your organization is eligible. So here in Ghana, basically you need to be part of this public trust section, which has some legal status. Again, there's a group of lawyers who came up with this, and I can't unfortunately help you navigate this eligibility criteria. It's a bit too complex, but if you're in doubt, apply, and either they will say yes or they'll say no. It doesn't take too much time, but before you proceed, make sure you have a copy of like the digital file of your the government registration you needed to become a charity or nonprofit in your country. And once you've done that, then you think of this as like using an online shopping cart. So once you're logged in, you just go into the catalog here. And then instead of login, what it would say is like basically add to shopping cart. And so you'd add in each one of these pieces of software, and then you would then say like you check out and you would pay the admin fee. So because what you're seeing here is the way TechSoup works is most of the items in our catalog are usually about like a 80% discount from the real price. So, normally access might cost you about $100. It will cost you $14 through TechSoup. And so once you pay, we'll give you by email the download code to download that software from Microsoft. But there is one more thing. Your TechSoup account can also be used outside of the TechSoup website. So, so say you are, you want to access Microsoft's Office 365. So you go to Microsoft's online donation page for nonprofits, and then you would go through here and say, okay, great, I'm excited about this. Let me go and request a product. Say I want Microsoft 365, and nonprofits globally all get access instantly to 10 full licenses, plus basically an infinite support number of more limited licenses, which they call the E1 licenses. And so you go through here, as you say, you can get 365 Business for free. You go through here, get started, and you would create an account. But through this account creation, at one stage, what Microsoft is going to do is they're going to send a ticket, an email to TechSoup saying, can you prove to us that this nonprofit already exists and has a TechSoup account? So to go through this process, you will need to have a TechSoup account to finish the process. So you may as well start with your TechSoup account first. Or say you want access to the Slack for Nonprofits program. Again, they're never asking you explicitly for your TechSoup account, but when you are applying, then all you need to do basically is put in your name, and they're going to send an email to TechSoup saying, you know, do you want total free access for this nonprofit? They need to have a TechSoup account first. Similarly, is for the Google for nonprofits, which is not in every country, unfortunately, but is actually expanding. In fact, it was just added to 5 more countries today, including Jordan. And so for the Google for Nonprofits program, which gives you all kinds of very interesting things, including Google Suite, access to more features within YouTube, as well as the Google AdWords credits, you would go through here and again, create an account through the sign-in process. And at some point, they're gonna ask you for what they call like a credential from TechSoup. And so you would go to your TechSoup page, copy out this list of random numbers, and then take that and fill it into the form as part of your sign-up process for Google for Nonprofits. So again, to apply for the Google for Nonprofit program, you need to have that free TechSoup account first. So hopefully, does that answer some of the question about how you can sort of apply for the TechSoup program? Excellent. Okay, good. I'm glad, Desiree, that helped at least get you closer. You know, as I said, like, you know, the part that's always the trickiest is just to confirm the eligibility. But honestly, it takes 10 minutes to apply. So if in doubt, I would say fill out the application form. Again, it's completely free. And then usually within 2 weeks, you'll receive a note whether you're approved or denied. And pretty much anyone who is, again, fits the eligibility requirements is automatically approved. And once that's happened, then you can then go through the process of requesting free and discounted services from across the NetSquared, the TechSoup network. So we've got a couple more minutes left. Are there any other questions? Okay. Yeah, there's a note here from Abdul Hadi, which is like that Zoom is consuming data. And I think, yeah, it's a good warning to say, if possible, if you can be on a Wi-Fi network where you are like having to pay per like data usage, that of course is much better for any of these kinds of video conferences or chats. You know, I guess the one thing I can say is if participating in this becomes difficult for you just because it may become expensive through the phone plan, know that I've recorded all of these meetings and we'll post those up on the NetSquared blog as well as in the Facebook group. And of course, because once it's in the Facebook group, it may be access to zero-rated data in your country. So that's one way for you to participate as well. Excellent. So I have time for one final question before we wrap this up. Does anyone else have a question or a comment before we part for the day? Okay, well then let's close this meeting for now. For those who couldn't participate for all of it, there's this opportunity for us to, I'll post a video later so you can view the rest of it later. And I do have a comment here from Desiree around data consumption, thinking that podcasts might be one way for us to share things without having as much data consumption. I think that's an interesting point. So it's something, let's consider that. And if any group leaders want to share like their approach to that, that would be very interesting. I'll actually show off, I'm just going to show off what I do here for my own group here in NetSquared Vancouver. So I record videos from each one of my events, which then I post onto the website for NetSquared Vancouver. But the other thing I do is, because once you have a video, it's very easy to just cut out the video and just make it the audio. So here's a nice example of the podcast that I've got for all the events here in NetSquared Vancouver. And certainly that's something, if you want to explore and like post the links and share them with the network, I'd be happy to share those out more widely. And so, if you're curious about how we're doing things in Vancouver, I'll drop this link into the chat and you can sort of take a look at the other podcasts we've done over the last year or so. Excellent. Well, then let me bring this meeting to a close right now, but thank you so much for joining me. Thank you everyone for your questions. We'll continue to come together on a monthly basis, and know, of course, that in between, you can always ask any questions on the Slack or the Facebook group, and I'll be happy to support you there as well. So thank you so much and have a great day.